Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining everybody for another Tuesday discussion. Here on Tuesdays, we do like to respond to questions and comments we're getting either in the YouTube comments, Instagram, or in our wonderful Patreon community. I love y'all. Now, today's conversation essentially revolved around my recent top 10 of 2023 list. I got the question of which of those bottles did I feel inspired to buy a backup of? And I had to take a step back on that one and kind of came to the realization I really didn't back any of them up. And the ones that I did back up are kind of happenstance. So I wanted to go over this topic about bunkering whiskeys, about buying backup bottles, and kind of understanding that I'm not doing that anymore. And I'm wondering if you are feeling the same way. So come back in the comments and let me know what you think about this particular topic. But I have a few thoughts on the subject. So thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right. So, what we want to know is all about bunkering bourbons, bunkering whiskey, buying backup bottles, and if those habits are changing over time. For me personally, they are definitely changing over time. And I got a few reasons for that. Some of them might be related to this channel, but I think some of them are also related to what's happened to whiskey, particularly in the last 2 years. And maybe that illuminates where we're going from here. So, one thing that I used to do quite often was fall victim to this trap of, oh, I've got this nice bottle here that's open, but I can't fully enjoy this nice bottle until I have this backup one in my closet, as if it's some type of security blanket. And once I have that security blanket, then I can drink this one to my heart's content. But then I'm not going to open up this one until I have a backup to this one, and then I'll open up this one and enjoy it. I mean, it was a terrible cycle, but I feel like that was a pretty normal kind of condition back in 2018, 2019. Just getting into the hunting, maybe a little hardcore, finding things, getting a sense of when I'm going to find things, when I'm not going to find things, when I got lucky, when I didn't get lucky, all those types of things. But yes, had that need for a security blanket. And I used to grab picks of things: Russell's Reserve, Buffalo Trace, Weller Antique, uh, gosh, a couple more. Knob Creek 15-year single barrels. Used to buy those all the time. I'd be like 5, 6, 7, 8 bottles deep in those, and then it would just take me forever to get to them because I'd wait till I open the next one until I finished one. And then it gets to the point where it's like, I'm never going to finish these. I'm going to stop buying these type of bottles. And then I kept buying some of them anyway. So now I've just got some old ones from this 2017 to 2019 era as I'm now drinking things that are coming out in 2024. But one thing that changed my habit is definitely this channel. I think coming out with weekly bourbon reviews requires some type of incoming whiskeys at a variety. And thus, there isn't a lot of room for backup bottles or a lot of time to slow down and think about what I would buy two of. No, I can't buy two of something. My budget's limited. I got to buy two unique things so that I got a review for this week and I got a review for next week. And at least that was some of the mentality going through my head. Now, channel aside, when I do think about the whiskeys in the top 10 list, why didn't I buy backups of some of them? Even my number one, the number one, I know there's a store that I could go to and buy it right now. And I'm like, I don't know. It's like $200 for that one, and I can go and buy two other whiskeys to review in 2024. Do I want to do that? So I've steered away from buying backup bourbons to the point where there's actually only two whiskeys in my top 10, top 20 list last year that I actually have a backup of. One of them was the Magi Blended Rye. The reason I have a backup of that one, though, is because it came out in January or February. And I was like, oh man, this thing's delicious. It's going to make my top 10 list. What if I don't have any by the end of the year? So I bought one then just so it would extend on forward and I could keep sharing it with Kelsey and Darrell and have some for the end of the year. But then I ended up never tapping that backup bottle. And then I got a backup of that Beamtack Knob Creek. Oh my gosh, an amazing 9-year single barrel. Ooh, utterly delicious. Really glad to have a backup of that one. But the real reason I think that I've really stopped buying backup bottles and stopped bunkering bottles, really, I guess there's two reasons. One is space. So, a slogan for 2024 is no more floor whiskey in 2024. I can only buy things if they fit on my shelf. There will be no row of bottles on the floor by my bar anymore. And every bottle I buy, especially if I'm planning to bunker it and then not open it for some indiscriminate amount of time, that's going to take up space in my house. And space is finite. Space is a very precious thing that I don't think people quite realize until they get too deep in the whiskey collecting and they start taking over different cabinets in the kitchen, in the basement. There is a cabinet over here that holds a couple hundred bottles that used to have wedding pictures and the champagne glasses from my wedding day. And it used to just be a huge dedication to my wedding day. And then I just took all that stuff, stuffed it in the closet, and stuffed it with full of whiskey. Lost some brownie points on that one. But yes, space is a commodity, and I feel like people are giving less and less space to whiskey. If anything, I see people selling off all those backups that they had, even at cost, just to get the space back. Now, the other reason I'm not backing up bottles anymore is because there have been so many new brands that have just impressed me to the point that I want to see what they're going to do going forward. Brands like Hard Truth, Still Austin, releasing 2-year, 3-year-old whiskey. Well, guess what? It's going to be 4 years. It's going to be 5 years. There's no point in backing up the stuff that's 2 to 3 years old if it's just going to get better in the future, 4 and 5 years and 6 years. Why would I buy backups of the younger stuff? I did that accidentally or maybe unknowingly back in 2020 when MGP single barrels started coming out again after a little bit of law, but they all reset to being 4 years old, 5 years old. And I bought so many backups and so many extra 4-year, 5-year picks. And then the next year, 6-year picks came out. The next year, 7-year picks came out. The next year, 8-year pick came out. I don't want to go back to drinking that 4-year and 5-year stuff. It really wasn't that good compared to what's coming out now. I'm just going to keep buying the 7-year, the 8-year, the 9-year, and keep playing that forward. Don't need a backup of it. But enough new things are keeping me distracted that there really isn't this security blanket need anymore to have something in the closet sealed. Now, I do have things that I am keeping sealed in my bunker, but I don't really plan to add to it, I guess is the point. I think I even have enough now that even if I went to a couple bottle shares, special bottle shares every single year, I could bring a special bottle. I could bring something interesting, especially when these things start getting older and older and older. So that is where I think I am on backing up bottles and bunkering whiskeys. I think I'm essentially done with it. I think I'm just going to experience whiskeys while I have them, and I will not feel the need to buy a backup or buy two of them on the spot because I think I got so lucky or whatever the case may be. There's always new whiskey, there's always new picks, there's always new releases. It is an endless hobby, and really, it's a hobby that I don't look in the rear view very often. I am typically always forward looking, unless, of course, I get some type of Dusty sample from Dusty Dan or from Kelsey, in which case, then I can look behind and see what the past had. But I'm not the one buying those either. I'm just enjoying the samples because people spoil me sometimes. So that concludes my thoughts on bunkering bottles and continuing to acquire unopened bottles. I am curious if your habits have changed over time as well. If you are feeling this, if you're feeling it, is it economically driven? Is it space driven? Is it some of the reasons I talked about? Just new brands, new stuff's constantly coming out. Why buy two of something when something new is going to come out and be great? There's always seems to be great whiskey floating around if you know where to look. Curious to know what you're thinking on this subject. And if you have any other topics that you'd like us to handle in future weeks, leave those in the comments as well. So thank you for joining us today, Whiskey Friends. We'll catch you on the next Tuesday discussion. Goodbye, everybody.
Jeff, just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello